Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Talk number 526. The dialogue is dated the 3rd of October, 1938. A visitor asked Sri Bhagavan, "People give some names to God and say that the name is sacred, and repetitions of the name bestow merit on the individual. Can it be true?" Sri Bhagavan replies, "Why not? You bear a name to which you answer, but your body was not born with that name written on it, nor did it say to anyone that it bore such and such a name. And yet a name is given to you, and you answer to that name, because you have identified yourself with the name. Therefore, the name signifies something, and it is not a mere fiction. Similarly, God's name is effective. Repetition of the name is remembrance of what it signifies, hence its merit." But the man did not look satisfied. Finally, he wanted to retire and prayed for Sri Bhagavan's grace. Sri Bhagavan now asked how mere sounds assuring him of grace would satisfy him unless he had faith. Both laughed and the visitor retired. Repetition of the name is remembrance of what it signifies. What does it signify? What is it that you are trying to remember? You are trying to remember something that is beyond thought. You are trying to remember something that is limitless and eternal. You are trying to remember something that words of any kind cannot define. You are trying to remember God. What is God? Repetition of the name is remembrance of what it signifies. Hence knows its merit. The man did not look satisfied. He wanted to retire and prayed for Sri Bhagavan's grace. Bhagavan now asked how mere sounds assuring him of grace would satisfy him unless he had faith. The parallel with his previous question is obvious. All aspects of spirituality require faith. From where does faith arise? Faith is needed if one wishes to perceive grace. Faith is needed if one is going to apply self-effort in practice. One needs faith if he is going to repeat the names of God. Faith is needed most. And faith arises from within. But you need to have faith in that to experience it. October 4th, 1938. A group of respectable Korg ladies was in the hall. One of them asked, "I have received a mantra. People frighten me, saying that it may have unforeseen results if repeated. It is only Pranava, Om. So I seek advice. May I repeat it? I have considerable faith in it. Sri Bhagavan replied, certainly it should be repeated with faith. She questioned, will it do by itself, or can you kindly give me any further instructions? Sri Bhagavan responded, the object of mantra japa is to realize that the same japa is already going on in oneself, even without effort. The oral japa becomes mental, and the mental japa finally reveals itself as being eternal. That mantra is the person's real nature. That is also the state of realization. She asked, can the bliss of samadhi be gained thus? Sri Bhagavan responded, the japa becomes mental and finally reveals itself as the self. That is samadhi. She said, please show grace to me and strengthen me in my efforts. Her first question was dealing with that she had received the mantra. Someone had initiated her to a mantra. She said, it is only Pranava, Om. May I repeat it? I have considerable faith in it. Well, if she has considerable faith in it, certainly she should go on with it. And Bhagavan says so. Certainly, it should be repeated with faith. Faith in what is signified by it. In this case, it is Om. So what is signified by Om? We start every satsang with Om. What does it signify? Mandukya Upanishad explains Om. What is signified? it should be repeated with faith. Faith in what? Faith in what is signified. What is signified? Bhagavan then explained, the object of mantra japa, repetition of the mantra, is to realize that the same japa is already going on in oneself, even without effort. Again, it is faith in what is signified. What is signified is already going on in oneself, even without effort. What else can that be but your very being? Effortlessly going on, continuing. The oral japa, Om, becomes mental, and the mental japa finally reveals itself as being eternal. The eternal is what is signified, and is the very being of the one who recites the mantra pertaining to it. That mantra is the person's real nature. That is also the state of realization. So it is no mere word or sound or thought. It is your eternal real nature. That is also the state of realization. Realization is the existence or consciousness of one who realizes. Have faith in this. Her next question was, can the bliss of samadhi be gained thus? And Sri Bhagavan more or less repeats what he just said. The japa becomes mental and finally reveals itself as the self. That is samadhi. The inner knowledge that reveals one's being as the self. is the true definition of samadhi. It is that which has no division. And no coming and going. She finished by saying, "Please show grace to me and strengthen me in my efforts."
So this faith, so it seems like what you're saying is so important for spirituality. It seems like it's all goes down to the self, right? It's, Ribus calls it conviction. But isn't it all just, it seems like that's how it works. It's the self disguised as faith or conviction. And that's what it becomes revealed, right, as the self. I mean, I'm just kind of going over what you just were describing. That it becomes mental, and then the mental drops away through, I guess, that faith or conviction or reality.
So faith becomes conviction, conviction becomes realization, realization doesn't become anything else.
Yeah.
Simply is.
I was believing in two selves, but with that belief, it's impossible.
Yes, but even that requires faith, the belief in two selves.
Yeah.
It just goes to show how powerful faith is. It can make even ignorance look real.
Yeah. But, I think, without that belief, it makes a big difference. And similarly, having faith in the absolute conviction in there's only one self. I mean, your teaching, which is destroying the ego or any, actually the possibility of a creation. I mean, that it never even happened. So, I mean, I guess there's only reality, and that's, I have to get this. And that goes even to faith and conviction and all that. Anyway, it's amazing.
Note how in both dialogues, the questioners resolve themselves to faith in His grace.
Maybe that's the deepest part.
It is where the faith, the conviction, and the realization blend together as one. October 13th, 1938. A middle-aged Andhra man asked, "Is thought of God necessary for fixing one's sight or making the mind one-pointed?" Sri Bhagavan responded, "What is the practice?" The disciple said, "To fix the look." Sri Bhagavan then asked, "What for?" The disciple said, "To gain concentration." Sri Bhagavan replied, "The practice gives work for the eye right enough, but where is the work for the mind in the process?" The disciple said, "What should I do for it?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "Thought of God, certainly." The disciple asked, "Does the practice make one ill?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "Maybe, but all will be rightly adjusted of its own accord." The disciple asked, "I practiced dhyana for 4 hours a day and fixation of sight for 2 hours. I became ill. Then others said that it was owing to my practice, so I gave up dhyana." Sri Bhagavan replied, "Matters will adjust themselves." The disciple asked, "Is it not better that the gaze of the eye becomes fixed naturally?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "What do you mean?" The disciple said, "Is practice necessary to fix the gaze, or is it better to leave it to happen of its own accord?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "What is practice if it is not an attempt to make something natural? It will become natural after long practice." The disciple asked, "Is pranayama necessary?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "Yes, it is useful." The disciple asked, "I did not practice it, but should I undertake it?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "Everything will be all right with sufficient strength of mind." The disciple asked, "How shall I get the strength of mind?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "By pranayama." The disciple said, "Is food regulation also necessary?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "It is certainly useful." The disciple asked, "Should my contemplation be on the infinite or the limited being?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "What do you mean?" The disciple said, "May I contemplate on Sri Krishna or Sri Rama alternately?" Sri Bhagavan answered, "Bhavana implies khandha, that is, division." The gentleman who was asking the questions on a variety of practices, none of which are recommended by Sri Bhagavan. He asks about everything except self-inquiry or self-knowledge. Nevertheless, Sri Bhagavan compassionately assists him, giving him advice regarding the practices that he is interested in. So the first question was about fixing one's sight. When asked what he meant by that, he said, to fix the look, visual sight. What for? To gain concentration. So Sri Bhagavan remarked, the practice gives work for the eye, right enough, but where is the work for the mind in the process? After all, one is involved in spiritual practices in order to turn inward the mind. The next question was, what should I do for it? That is, what should he do to involve his mind in the process of turning inward? Sri Bhagavan responded, thought of God, certainly. For in the questions that he's asking, there is no mention of the Absolute. If he thinks of God and reorients his spiritual practice accordingly, it will be immensely beneficial. The next question was, does the practice make one ill? Sri Bhagavan replied, maybe, but what is implied is, depends on the practice, what is being regarded as practice. But all will be rightly adjusted of its own accord. Thus it is nothing to be concerned with. The next question was, I practice dhyana, meditation, for 4 hours a day, and fixation of sight for 2 hours. I became ill. Then others said that it was owing to my practice. So I gave up meditation, I gave up dhyana. It would have been better if he had made the other choice and given up the fixation on the fixing of the gaze. But he gave up dhyana, he says. Sri Bhagavan again said, matters will adjust themselves. What he really needs to do is to find a way inward. The next question was, is it not better that the gaze of the eye becomes fixed naturally? Is practice necessary to fix the gaze, or is it better to leave it to happen of its own accord? Why become fixated on fixing the gaze? Is that what spiritual practice is about? Sri Bhagavan explained, what is practice if it is not an attempt to make something natural? Such as turning within. His questions are very much rooted in the I am the body misconception. The next one continues in the same vein. Is pranayama necessary? Sri Bhagavan answers simply, yes, it is useful, not necessary. None of what he's mentioning in his questions, that is the questioner is mentioning, none of that is necessary. Depending on the aspirant, certain things will be useful. But what is really necessary is turning within. And for that, a path that leads to self-knowledge should be practiced. His next question is, I did not practice it. He did not practice pranayama, but should I undertake it? Again in the Marharshi says, everything will be all right with sufficient strength of mind. How shall I get the strength of mind? Sri Bhagavan says, by pranayama. Is food regulation also necessary? It is certainly useful. Should my contemplation be on the infinite or the limited being? Sri Bhagavan said, what do you mean? And the disciple gives his own definition of what that is, infinite or limited being, as may I contemplate on Sri Krishna or Sri Rama alternately. Bhagavan simply answers, bhavana, the feeling or deep state, implies khandha, division.
Are we on? Thank you, Nome. I'm thinking of this quote from Aquinas, who said, "For those with faith, no evidence is necessary. For those without it, no evidence will suffice." My take is, for those with evidence, no faith is necessary. I want to focus on the evidence and the insights that we have here. But I could ask a question then. Is faith a practice? I don't want to get involved in something progressive or dualistic or becoming. So is faith a practice, and as such, is it necessary or just useful?
Faith will be there regardless. You will have faith in the reality, or you'll have faith in the unreal. You'll have faith in what is spiritual, or you'll have faith in what is worldly, and so on. Faith is inescapable. It's present every time you have the idea there is, whatever it is, regardless of what it is. Regardless of what seems to be there. Where does such faith come from? It does not have an outer source. When something is evident, you have faith in it. At least to the extent that you say, this is so. What this is could change time and again. But the conviction, this is real, regardless of this, will still be. Consider the faith that you have in your own existence. So the apparent duality of which he spoke is not true. All of there is has its root in I am. That faith turned inward becomes real knowledge. In real knowledge, the nature of the self is self-evident.
Thank you.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.